A factory in 1910. Hundreds of people standing in a line, each performing one specific repetitive motion. The whistle blows, they eat. The whistle blows, they go home. To feed that factory, we needed a school system that exactly looked like that. And we called it the batch processing model of education. We take 30 kids born in the same year, regardless of their interests or their IQ, and put them together in a room, spray them with information for 45 minutes. If you are too fast, you are bored. If you are too slow, you are lost. But here's the problem. That factory is gone. The assembly line is now a series of algorithms, yet we are still batch processing our students. Today, on the Horizon Shift, we are exploring the moment the assembly line breaks. We are talking about the personalized professor, the AI that turns a lecture hall of 300 into 300 private lessons. We will look at why a traditional engineering or project management degree might be obsolete by the time the ink dries, and how we rebuild the very idea of learning. Let's talk about navigation. In the old world of education, the professor was a paper map. You had to learn how to read it, fold it, and hope that you didn't take a wrong turn. Because if you did, you were on your own until the next class. AI driven education, on the other hand, is like a live GPS with satellite view. It doesn't just tell you where the destination is, rather, it recalculates in real time based on your speed. Imagine a student named Sarah studying quantum mechanics. She's a visual learner who loves architecture. When she hits a wall with wave particle duality, her AI tutor doesn't just repeat the textbook. It says, Sarah, think of it like the Burj Khalifa. It's a solid structure, but it's designed to sway in the wind to dissipate energy. It is both a rigid tower and a moving wave. This is what we call as the 1:1 tutor. It's the ghost that knows Sarah's history, her metaphors, and her frustrations. It knows that Sarah learns best at 10 p.m. and she struggles with calculus, but at the same time excels at logic. For the first time in human history, the average student concept is a myth. Everyone out here is an outlier. Now, let's talk about the real data. Let's talk about the job market. Many of you listening come from a technical background, either in engineering, data science, project management, and so on. For the last 19 years, an engineering degree was essentially a certificate in mathematical endurance. You proved that you could solve the calc series and the physics labs. But today, if I give an AI a set of parameters and say, design a bridge that spans 50 meters, uses sustainable materials, and cost under 2 million, it will give me 5,000 viable blueprints before I finish my cup of coffee. So, then what happens to the engineer? Think of it like a transition from a bricklayer to an architect. A bricklayer knows how to lay one brick at a time perfectly. An architect, on the other hand, knows how the whole building lives and breathes. Traditional courses are still teaching students how to lay the bricks, how to do the manual calculations that AI now does for them instantly. If our universities do not adapt, they are graduating the world's most over-educated bricklayers into a world that only needs architects. Engineering education must shift from execution to intent. Instead of teaching a student how to solve an equation, we must first teach them how to frame the problem. In the era of AI, the answer is a commodity, but the question is the high value asset. And this isn't just theory being debated in ivory towers. We are in the middle of a massive global petri dish. Let's look at the front lines. Take Harvard University as an example. Their most famous course, 50, which is Introduction to Computer Science, has traditionally had hundreds of students and a small army of teaching assistants. Now, they have developed the CS50 bot. This isn't a script that just points you to a FAQ. It is an LLM-based tutor that understands the code logic. If a student has a bug at 3 a.m. in the morning, the bot does not just fix it, because that would be too easy. Instead, it asks, I see that you are using a while loop here, but have you considered how the counter resets? This kind of a scenario forces the aha moment. and it mimics the best human mentor by knowing when to stay silent. Next, we take the example of Arizona State University or ASU. They have partnered with OpenAI to create AI powered learning assistants for their most difficult courses. They found that in killer classes, for example, Intro to Biology, where many students usually drop out, the AI assisted groups had a significantly higher reduction. Why? Because the AI caught the confusion at 11 p.m. at night and not 2 weeks later during the midterm. Let's go to Georgia Tech next. They famously created Jill Watson, an AI teaching assistant. After getting introduced for months, students did not even realize that Jill wasn't a human. She answered forum posts and cleared up syllabus confusions with up to 97% accuracy. Let's look at Khan Academy's Khanmigo. Their Khanmigo tool is perhaps the best example of the personalized professor. They have essentially built a Socratic mirror. Imagine a student struggling with the American Revolution. Instead of a lecture, the AI takes on the persona of the historical figure. So you aren't reading about history, you are debating George Washington about the risks of crossing into Delaware. You are learning through empathy and interaction, which are the twin engines of long term memory. Closer to home for me at the Florida Gulf Coast University, we are seeing this shift in real time as well within the MBA programs. We aren't just studying management theory, we are being tasked with using AI to simulate market entities and supply chain disruptions. The laboratory is no longer a room with breakers, it's a sandbox where we prompt engineer our way through complex business ethics and system designs. Now, let's address the elephant in the room. If the ghost can teach us everything from Python to philosophy, then what is essentially left for us? Where is our moat, that defensive layer that keeps us relevant? If the ghost can teach us everything, do we become hollow? If I never have to struggle through the difficult derivation because AI explains it perfectly, does my brain go soft? This is where the human element becomes our primary competitive advantage. Think of it like a difference between a GPS and a driver. A GPS is better at math. It knows every street, every traffic jam, and every shortcut. But the GPS doesn't know why you are going to the hospital. It doesn't know if the passenger in a backseat is having a baby or a heart attack or you're going for a routine checkup. It can't make the moral judgment to break a minor traffic law for a major human reason. In my 19 years working through global projects, I have learned that technical proficiency is just the entry fee. The real value is in the uncomputable skills. First comes the curiosity engine. AI is a reactive force. It needs a prompt. Humans, on the other hand, are proactive. We are the ones who look at a data center floor plan and asks, but how will the technicians really feel working in this space for the period of 8 hours? Next comes conflict resolution. An AI can optimize a schedule, but it can't sit down two disgruntled stakeholders in a conference room and find a middle ground that saves the project. And lastly, synthesis of the unrelated. So AI is a great at narrow intelligence. It can be world's best coder, but it takes human to realize that a concept from biology, like how a forest communicates through fungi, can be used to redesign a more resilient corporate communication network. The human moat is our ability to be generalists in a world of specialized machines. AI can teach you logic, but it struggles to teach nuance. It can teach you to code, but it can't teach you culture. The education of the future must be hybrid. We use AI to master the hard skills, the math, the syntax, the data, so that we can spend our precious human time in the classroom on human skills. For example, how do we negotiate? How do we lead with empathy? How do we decide which problems are actually worth solving? So, if we take a sledgehammer to the current system and rebuild it for the era of intelligence, what would a new university look like? Here is my blueprint. First comes the subscription degree. The 4-year degree is a 20th century relic. In the future, you don't just graduate. Instead, you subscribe. Your university becomes a lifelong partner. Your degree becomes your lifelong passport. Every 18 months, as the AI models leap forward, you return for a resync, a micro credential in the latest human AI collaboration tools. We move from the just in case learning, where we are learning things that we may need, to just in time learning. The second point I would introduce is prompting as a new Latin. So, centuries ago, Latin was the language of the elite and the educated. In 2026, natural language programming is like the new Latin. Just like reading, writing, and arithmetic, we need to teach communication with intelligence. If you can't talk to the machine, you can't walk. We need to specifically teach students how to speak to the machine, not just simple things like write a poem, but synthesize these three data sets, identify the ethical blind spots in the second one, and output a stage or strategy that minimizes the carbon footprint. While this is just a simple prompt, I guess you understand what I'm trying to say. This is the core literacy of the future. The third and important point is we need to move from grading to a proof of work. We replace the high stakes 3-hour memory test with continuous assessment. No more multiple choice exams. The AI today already knows that if you have cheated in the exams or you have honestly applied your answers for it. And frankly speaking, if the AI can do the exam, then the exam is worthless anyways. We shift to high fidelity projects with continuous assessments. Your final exam should be a real world problem. For example, optimizing a lower local power grid, or maybe designing a dog friendly park in a very busy city where you must really defend your choices against a panel of both human and AI. And lastly, there should be an ethics first approach as part of the engineering core. We need to stop treating ethics as a soft elective that you need to take in your senior year. Instead, it should be the foundation. In fact, every engineering and tech student should be required to take philosophy. Before an engineer learns how to build a bridge or an algorithm, they should spend a semester on consequence modeling. If we are really giving 22-year-olds the power to deploy algorithms that can affect millions, they need to understand more than just efficiency. They need to understand consequence as well. And they need to have the moral compass to guide that power. We are standing at the edge of the greatest learning curve in human history. The standardized human was a useful cog in a massive machine, but that machine is now self-repairing and self-driving. Our job is not to compete with the ghost. Instead, it is to direct it. We are the conductors of an orchestra of intelligence. We are moving away from an era where we go to school to an era where the school follows us. The 1:1 tutor isn't just a piece of software. It is the key to unlocking the latent potential of every person on this planet. The classrooms of the future doesn't have walls, it has horizons. What happens to the university when the ghost can teach any subject? Well, it finally becomes what it was always meant to be, a place for humans to learn how to be better humans. I am Abhishek Roy, and this has been the Horizon Shift. I am now going to go and play with my dog Happy, because even the most advanced AI hasn't really quite figured out how to replicate the sheer joy and emotions of a Maltese puppy greeting you. Keep your sensors sharp, keep your cooling at 72 degrees, and stay human. Stay curious, stay human, and keep an eye on the curve. I will see you on the next shift. By the way, one final thought for you before I leave. If you could have a 1:1 tutor for any skill, not for work, but for your soul, what would you want to learn this year? Also, as we move forward towards these lifelong subscription models of education, do you think our identities will become more tied to our schools? Or do we become finally independent operators in a global talent market? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thank you.